Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 26 of Pumping Iron, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of classic muscle cars. And in this episode we're featuring the second version of the Shelby Mustang that's available on Gran Turismo. This is the GT350R, the non-premium model. And on the surface of things, it's a little bit of a strange car, because despite being a non-premium and having a lower PP even in the dealership than the premium GT350, it costs more than double the price. The regular GT350 is a 50 grand car, whereas this costs a pretty hefty 106,000 credits, making it one of the more expensive mainstream non-custom muscle cars. So why does it cost that much? Well, the main reason is because, as was highlighted to me a while back, this is more of a race-ready version of the Mustang. It's a base car, if you will. It's ready to be taken out on the track, ready to be put into racing, such as perhaps the SCCA. So it's essentially kind of like the Daihatsu Storia Cross 4 or vehicles like that, which are base models. They're designed to be bought by teams or by individual drivers and immediately turned into race cars. So that being said, you would probably expect this to be, as far as muscle cars go, a pretty good track car. And you'd be right, because it is. In fact, it's an excellent track car, one of the best muscle cars in the game for circuit racing, in fact. It doesn't have the strongest spec, but what it does with the spec that it has is very impressive. Now, speaking of spec, it's in most ways inferior to the premium model. It's powered by a Supercharged 289, or for non-Americans, a 4.7 litre V8. Interestingly, the standard version here is supercharged, whereas the premium, which we reviewed before, is naturally aspirated. An interesting difference. Despite having the advantage of a supercharger though, for some odd reason this car is still less powerful, at 603 horsepower compared to the premium's 650. It also puts out 611 pound-feet of torque and weighs in at just 1,042 kilos. Now, perhaps the strangest thing of all is that that means it's also heavier than the premium model, which is kind of surprising considering that this is supposed to be the more race-spec machine. But for whatever reason, that's the case. And it's certainly still no heavyweight. It's only 3 kilos heavier, so not that much of a difference, and you can't even feel the difference unless you put the car on scales, of course. The horsepower per tonne is a pretty impressive 579, and the car's relatively compact, a little over 15 feet long and well under 6 feet wide. It's actually 5 foot 8 inches wide, so for a muscle car it's pretty compact. Now you can see here we're on a city circuit. It is of course Monaco, or Monaco depending on how you want to pronounce it, and most muscle cars would have a bit of a hard time here, if nothing else purely due to their size. With the Mustang, particularly this one, that isn't an issue, because it's narrow, it's not particularly long, it carries its weight nice and low, and it's very, very lightweight. So for city tracks at the very least, it's one of the best muscle cars in the game. One of the best by far, in fact, I would say. But what about for other tracks? Well, thankfully, it carries over that ability to especially technical circuits such as, say, Ascari, the Nürburgring Ring, Laguna Seca. Tracks like that this car really shines on. In a straight line, not so much. Funnily enough though, despite having inferior specs and not being a premium model, from my tuning at least, this is pretty much equal to the premium model in a straight line. There may be some slight difference in acceleration, but the top speed is pretty much the same. So what you're really paying for is the handling. The handling is fantastic, and I can't stress that enough. It's one of the best handling muscle cars in the game. Possibly the best handling mainstream muscle car in the game. And the drivability is superb. It's very beginner friendly. The grip is incredible, dependent on tyres of course, and dependent on how much power you've put through them. But in general, the grip is very good, the brakes are excellent, and it's actually very fun to drive as well, which I have to honestly say, despite not being a Mustang fan. So overall, yeah, it is an expensive car, and there's no getting away from that. It's also a non-premium, which is a shame. But I would say the handling on this car is better than the premium model, and despite not having quite as good a spec, it's pretty much just as good in a straight line, and you'll actually end up surprising more people in this car, because most people tend to go for the obvious choice of the premium, which is fair enough, considering it costs less than half the price. But if you pull out this car, you'll have the advantage of surprise and handling. So if you're looking for a strong, lightweight, track-going muscle car that doesn't really matter so much about straight-line performance, this is an excellent choice for you. But that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.